Want to host a dinner party that's trash chic?
Okay.
Well, we've made our fave food from Ratatouille,
Easy to cook, easy to eat.
so you can watch the movie and eat along with Remy.
I love it.
Cast aside your Anton ego and throw a rat under your hat.
You understand me?
Because we believe that
Anyone can cook.
welcome to a film club like no other.
What have you got there? You found cheese? And not just any cheese, Tomme de Chevre de Pays! That would go beautifully with my mushroom! And oh, this rosemary! This rosemary, with, maybe with a few drops from this sweet crab!
Well, throw it on the pile, I guess, and then we'll,
We don't want to throw this in with the garbage! This is special!
But we're supposed to return to the colony before sundown, or, Dad's gonna...
Emil! There are possibilities unexplored here. We gotta cook this! Now, exactly how we cook this is the real question. Oh, yeah! The key is to keep turning it. Get the smoky flavor nice and even.
That storm's getting closer.
Unfortunately, this little chef forgot to order any lightning. And as mushrooms don't puff up under the grill, we're bringing the puff, pastry, to the mushroom.
Oh, you gotta taste this!
We're going to make some little Vol-au-Vont cases using a cookie cutter to cut out circles of ready-made puff pastry. I want these to be diddy and dainty little bites, so I'm using a small cookie cutter that's 1.6 inches in diameter, but go for whatever size your heart desires. I'm only going to use about half the pastry, and that will still make 24 cases of this size. Place the pastry circles gently onto a lined baking sheet. This set of cutters is fantastic. I use them all the time, and they still look as good as new. As ever, any equipment I'm using is linked in the description box underneath this video.
Wow!
Take a small cookie cutter, this one is 1 inch, and without cutting all the way through the pastry, make an indentation in the centre of each circle. Give these a quick egg wash. Try to just brush the tops and avoid getting egg on the sides, as that will affect how they rise. These need 10 to 15 minutes in a 180 fan oven. Push the centre of the pastry down with the end of a wooden spoon to form a little cup. Where you created the indentation in the pastry, you should get a nice clean edge. Before filling the cases, leave them to cool fully. For the filling, roughly chop 300 grams of mushrooms. And then we're going to dry fry these for about 8 minutes. We want all the moisture to escape, evaporate, and the mushrooms to brown nicely. Once these fun guys...
Should I be concerned about this?
Whatever. Once they've shrunk and they're nice and toasty, reduce the heat. Add in a good knob of butter, a minced garlic clove, the zest of a lemon, and the leaves from a couple of sprigs of fresh thyme. Cook that off for 2 to 3 minutes until the garlic is translucent and fragrant. To brighten and lift everything, add a few drops from some sweetgrass. Alternatively, use lemon juice. Then season it up. I'm using a truffle salt to boost that umami mushroomy flavour. Instead, you could use regular salt and a few drops of truffle oil.
Getting fancy with the spices.
If you don't have mushroom in your heart for truffle, just leave it out.
What?
For some luscious creaminess, add 3 tablespoons of creme fraiche. Blitz this up until it's nice and smooth, and then pipe or spoon the filling into the cooled Vol-au-Vont cases. Now for the iconic
Tomme de Chevre de Pays!
After a lot of hunting, I did manage to get my hands on Remy's actual cheese of choice, and this semi-hard goat cheese is phenomenal. I like to cut the same size as the hole to make things nice and neat. Top off each vol-au-vent with a little cheese. Less is more with this one. For that hint of lightningy flavour, I'm going to torch the cheese. This gives you an amazing smoky flavour.
It's kind of like a... it's got like this boom, zap kind of taste.
You could pop these onto the grill for a few minutes to melt the cheese, but you do run into the risk of burning the pastry. Using a blowtorch will give you much better control. They give amazing flavour, and they're fun. Then a little crown of Remy's beloved rosemary with an optional extra torching.
It's lightning-y! Oh, we gotta do that again!
This is your chance.
Now, the internet seems to think that this is a classic potato and leek, but if you look closely, it starts out red. That sounds like tomato to me. You say potato, I say tomato. Let's get to it. In a large pot, melt a knob of butter with a glug of olive oil. And then throw in a sliced leek and a diced onion. We're going to sweat these on a medium-low heat for about 5 minutes. Once the onion is translucent, chuck in 3 sticks of sliced celery. And a large potato, peeled and cubed. We're not really going in movie order here, because the potato is going to need a little longer than the magic of cinema allows.
It's past opening time.
We're going to give this another 5 minutes. Between Linguini and Remy, they add about 2 heads of garlic, but we're going to keep things on the tamer side and go for 2 cloves instead. Along with a tablespoon of tomato puree for that pre-interference tomatoey looking base, and a 1/4 teaspoon of hot cayenne pepper for our hint of spicy.
A spicy yet subtle taste experience.
Cook for a few minutes until the garlic is fragrant. Next, 800 millilitres of vegetable stock goes in. With 2 bay leaves, the leaves for a sprig of fresh thyme, a crack of black pepper, and a generous seasoning of salt. This needs to come up to a boil, then reduce it to a simmer and let it bubble away for 10 minutes. Now that the potato is almost cooked through, trickle in 150 millilitres of cream, a little chopped parsley, and finally, Remy calls for a sprinkle of chervil. I couldn't get my hands on any, so I'm subbing it out for a little tarragon. Give the soup a final 5 minutes to bubble away until the potato is fork tender, and then give it a blitz. To make sure it's super smooth, pass the soup through a sieve. After a final taste test, we're ready to serve.
Taste check! Spoons down!
Feel free to leave things here, but to present in a style fit for gustos, I'm going to do a few toppings.
That's wonderful.
You can find out how to make the herb oil and crispy leeks over on biteclub.tv.
She likes a soup.
What? I am making ratatouille. Well, how would you prepare it?
Ratatouille? They must be joking.
We're going to start off with the sauce. Lightly oil 2 sweet red peppers and place them under a hot grill and char until blackened. Stick the charred peppers in a bowl and cover with cling film. We're going to leave this to steam for 15 minutes to make the peel easier to remove. We also want to peel 3 tomatoes. To do that, score an X in the bottom of each one. Then drop them into boiling water for about 15 seconds. The skin should now easily slide right off.
Wow, I have never seen that before.
Once peeled, roughly chop the tomatoes and set them aside, keeping hold of any juice. This fancy style of ratatouille is actually called a Confit Biyaldi. Don't come at me for the pronunciation.
It sounds like rat and patootie. Rat patootie.
It was renowned chef Thomas Keller who suggested this presentation for the movie.
Only the fearless can be great.
Now the peppers have steamed, they should be easy to peel, so get rid of the skin and seeds and give them a rough chop.
Petit bisou, petit baiser, si tu savais comme tu me plais. Petit bisou, petit baiser, si tu savais ce que tu me fais. Mon cœur s'éclate quand je te vois, oh là là là, ça fait chauffer. Petit bisou, oh oui, les petits baisers.
Just a little olive oil into a frying pan and chuck in a diced onion. We want to saute the onion for about 5 minutes until it's translucent.
Petit baiser, si tu savais comme tu me plais. Petit bisou, petit baiser. Si tu
Add in a
savais
couple of cloves of minced garlic and a tablespoon of tomato puree. This needs a minute or 2 until the garlic is fragrant.
Petit bisou, petit baiser, si tu savais.
Get it off the heat and throw in the pepper and tomatoes.
Petit baiser, si tu savais ce que tu me fais. Mon cœur
And then blitz up the sauce until it's nice and smooth.
ça fait chauffer. Petit bisou, oh oui, des petits baisers. Mon cœur va exploser. Petit bisou, petit baiser, si tu savais comme tu me plais. Petit
For aromatics, I like a bay leaf and a couple of sprigs of fresh thyme.
que je fais. Mon corps s'éclate quand tu me tiens. Oh là là
Pop in a
là,
pinch of sugar to tamper the acidity and season generously with salt and pepper. Then this needs to go back on the heat. Bring the sauce up to a simmer, partially cover it and let it go for 20 to 25 minutes until it's reduced by about half. In the movie, it looks like Remy uses a combo of aubergine, tomato and green and yellow courgettes. You'll need 3 to 4 tomatoes and 1 to 2 each of the courgettes and aubergines. These all need to be sliced into rounds about 2 mm thick. Personally, I like to use a mandolin for the courgettes, but I find it easier to slice the tomatoes and aubergine with a sharp knife.
petit baiser, si tu savais comme tu me plais. Petit bisou, petit baiser, je ne sais plus ce que je fais. Mon corps s'éclate quand tu me tiens. Oh là là là, je vais tomber. Petit bisou, oh oui, des petits baisers. Faudra me ressusciter.
To get a nice neat presentation, you want the veg rounds to be as close to equal size as possible. So use Roma tomatoes and baby or Japanese aubergines if you can, as they're smaller than the usual kind and closer in size to the rest of the veg. Now the sauce is reduced nicely, remove and discard the bay leaf and the thyme sprig. Reserve a couple of tablespoons of sauce for later and pop the rest on the bottom of a baking dish in a nice even layer. The sauce seems a little thick at this stage, but the veg is going to release a load of water during baking and thin it out.
You are a clever rat.
Overlap the vegetables so that there's about a quarter exposed at the top. And lay down in alternating order. Drizzle over a little olive oil, give it a sprinkling of salt, a healthy crack of black pepper, and scatter over the leaves from a couple of sprigs of fresh thyme. Cut a piece of parchment paper to the size of the dish, with a small hole in the middle. This is going to prevent the veg from browning and allow steam to escape. This needs to bake for 50 to 60 minutes at 160 fan until the vegetables are fork tender. To mimic Remy's presentation, you're going to need a chef ring that's about 3 inches in diameter, or use one of our cookie cutters from earlier. Keep the veg stacked in order and use a palette knife to lift a few at a time from the baking dish. First, work around the edge, laying the vegetables upright and against the ring, and place them all the way around the outside. Then stack the vegetables flat, filling the centre.
It's very hard to explain.
Mix the reserved sauce with a teaspoon of white wine vinegar and a couple of tablespoons of good quality olive oil. We don't want to emulsify this, but leave it separated like Remy's. Remy finishes things off with a few parsley leaves and place a little chive on top.
Que je fais. Mon corps s'éclate quand tu me tiens. Oh là là là, je fais tomber. Petits bisous, oh oui, des petits baisers que j'aime t'embrasser.
Can I interest you in a dessert this evening?
Don't you always?
Which one would you like? Surprise me.
Now, if I was being surprised with a French dessert, I would want it to be this one. It's super simple and my absolute fave.
Gusteau says it's excellent.
In a saucepan, to 500 millilitres of double cream, add 100 millilitres of whole milk and a vanilla pod. Scrape out the seeds and throw the pod in for good measure. We're going to bring this up to a simmer and then take it off the heat straight away, as soon as bubbles start forming. Leave this to steep for about half an hour so that the vanilla infuses nicely into the cream. Separate 5 medium eggs. We only want the yolks for this recipe. Sorry, whites.
Don't tell me you're sorry, tell them you're sorry.
Whisk the yolks with 50 grams of caster sugar and a little pinch of salt. Now that the vanilla is beautifully infused, warm the cream again until just before it reaches a simmer. Then pour about a quarter of the cream over the egg yolks. This will temper them so that we don't end up in a scramble.
Help! Remy, help!
I've switched over to a spatula now as I want to avoid getting in a load of air bubbles. Pour in the remaining cream, give it a mix, and then strain this into a measuring jug. Straining the custard will get rid of any potential lumps of cooked egg.
Which does not sound delicious.
But be sure to encourage any vanilla seeds through the sieve. You can serve this in one large dish if you like, but I like to do individual portions. Get your chosen vessels into a large roasting tin and fill them up with the custard. We're going to bake this in a water bath to make sure that the custard cooks evenly and gently. Pour boiling water into the roasting tin to about a third of the way up the sides of the creme brulee dishes. This size, they'll take about half an hour in a 140 fan oven. These babies are ready once they're set on the edges with a slight wobble in the centre. To prevent them from overcooking, get them out of the water bath and onto a wire rack. Now they've cooled to room temperature, cover closely with cling film, and then we're going to refrigerate them for at least 6 hours, but ideally overnight. With a paper towel, remove any moisture that might have formed on top. And now for the fun part, adding the brulee to the creme.
What are you blathering about?
Sprinkle over a thin and even layer of sugar. For this size dish, about a teaspoon of sugar will do. I'm going to use a blowtorch to melt the sugar. This is the most effective method and the most fun.
Good for you.
Blowtorches aren't as expensive or scary as you might think, so if you fancy picking one up, the one I'm using is linked in the description box under this video. Move the blowtorch around as the sugar will continue to cook with the residual heat, and you don't want to blacken the whole thing. A couple of little blackened patches is perfect. Leave the puds to cool and harden for about an hour before serving. And that, my friend, is my fave surprise French dessert.
Can't remember the last time I asked a waiter to give my compliments to the chef.
And there we have it, proof that indeed
anyone can cook.
Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please do like, subscribe, and if you got this far, leave us a little baguette emoji down below. Tablescape ideas, equipment links, full recipes, and time codes of when to serve each course are available on our website, linked in the description box. Remember, the first rule of Bite Club is, you talk about Bite Club.